In our last video, we introduced the idea of classical free will, or libertarianism. Recall that classical free will theorists hold the following views. 1. Our actions are not determined. 2. Our actions are not random either. 3. We are the origins of our own actions. We've already discussed the first objection, so in this video, I'd like to take a look at the other two. Opponents to classical free will theory may ask, 1. Can we make sense of how actions can be not determined but also not random? 2. Can we justify the claim that we are the origins of our actions? 20th century libertarian Roderick Chisholm thinks he might just have the answers. To understand Chisholm's argument, we need to understand the difference between what he calls event causation and agent causation. Event causation is the normal, everyday kind of cause and effect we observe in the physical world. For example, a pebble thrown into the sea causes ripples on the surface. Agent causation is, according to Chisholm, when a person, not an event, causes something to happen, which results in creation of a new causal chain. In other words, when we decide to act, we are not merely responding to an earlier event, rather we are originating our own action. So how does Chisholm's view answer the objections? If you accept the idea of agent causation, then we see that our actions are caused by a person who acts according to reason. They're not determined by previous events or caused by random chance. In responding to the question of the origin of our actions, Chisholm draws upon Aristotle's concept of a prime mover, something that starts motion without being moved itself. Chisholm said, "If we are responsible, then we have a prerogative which some would attribute only to God. Each of us, when we act, is a prime mover unmoved. In doing what we do, we cause certain events to happen, and nothing or no one causes us to cause those events to happen." So we see that these views, if we hold them to be true, address our initial objections, but why should they be accepted? Perhaps you're unsatisfied with the lack of evidence, but Chisholm doesn't claim to have proven the existence of agent causation. Rather, he says that it's something we must come to accept if we want to preserve our current way of life. For example, he argues that without this theory, moral responsibility makes no sense. If you believe that people should be held accountable for their actions, aren't you implying that those people are in charge of them to some degree? If not, then our criminal justice system is cruel and ought to be disbanded immediately. If every action is just the result of a prior cause, how can anyone be justly rewarded or punished? Chisholm says that we should accept his view because the alternatives are worse. Sure, agent causation is strange, but if determinism were true, then we could not act in any other way than we do, and in a similar way, if our actions were strictly random, we have no control over what we do. This way, we can justify our practices of praise and blame, a key goal in the debate of free will. There are, of course, other philosophers, for example Susan Wolf, who argue that we don't actually need free will to justify praise and blame, but to many people, Chisholm's explanation just makes sense.